Alright, so it's time to talk about something that's been bothering me for, quite frankly, years, but I feel like it's been reignited with this new information that's come out regarding, of course, Sonic Superstars and modern Sonic in general, right? And it's about the characters. So naturally, they've asked Iizuka about the lore of Sonic Superstars and where it places in the canon, and this is where the debate begins, right? So we're gonna get to all this right now. But if you subscribe to the channel already, please make sure to subscribe, okay? Now this happened some days ago. It says here, Takashi Iizuka explains timeline placement of Sonic Superstars. It says, the co-op adventure Sonic Superstars made its debut on the Switch earlier this week, and if you're curious to know where it slots into the overall history of the series, the head of Sonic team, Takashi Iizuka, has now set the record straight. It apparently occurs after Sonic Mania, but yet before Sonic Adventure, right? The official quote here states, the classic series began with Sonic 1 in 1991, as Sonic Adventure marked the switch to the modern series in 1998. So in terms of the timeline, Sonic Superstars occurs after Sonic Mania and before Sonic Adventure. Whenever we develop a new game, we always make sure the story fits with the lore. No you don't! What are you talking about? You don't do that! How the fuck is this classic game taking place after Sonic Mania, which came out in 2017, but before Sonic Adventure, which came out in 1998? Oh, right, Sonic Mania happened in the 90s, right? It occurred 20 years prior because, you know, it has to stay within the 90s to be classic, right? Because classic Sonic transformed into modern Sonic in 1998, so it wouldn't make sense. Oh wait, but Sonic is from another dimension, so classic Sonic is actually not the same Sonic as modern Sonic, according to forces. He's not younger Sonic like he was in Generations. Oh, actually he is apparently, because why else would all the classic games be taking place in the 90s if classic Sonic and modern Sonic weren't coexisting at the same time? Which one is it? Is he younger? Is he a different Sonic entirely? Listen man, I love Sonic Generations. It's not a perfect game, but I love it, okay? But it has single-handedly fucked up this franchise, okay? Seriously, I hate this classic modern split so fucking much. It's so pointless. It's so stupid. It's so stupid, okay? And multiple things that got me thinking about this again, because it's always been in the back of my mind, but like, oh my god, like, imagine if Mario Wonder wasn't allowed to do anything new because it didn't happen in the 1980s or early 90s from Super Mario Bros. 1 all the way into Super Mario World. Imagine what kind of game it would be if it couldn't do anything new. But ironically, with Superstars, that's not even the case, because they've done a few new things, but then they use that excuse when they don't want to do the actual things that we want. I was looking at Sonic Mega Collection Plus. For those of you who grew up in the Adventure era, you remember that was like the Sonic collection if you wanted to play the Genesis games, etc, etc, the 8-bit games, you know. And the cover for the game features Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. That's what we would have called it at the time. Of course, now we would call it Modern Sonic, Modern Tails, and Modern Knuckles. And then people would go, but if it's got the classic games on it, why has it got the modern characters on the artwork? Because back then we didn't separate the two. I mean, yes, there were 2D versus 3D debates. There was Genesis versus advanced games. I mean, I'm sure most of the classic fans prefer the Genesis games, let's be real. But a lot of my era may have preferred some of the advanced games, or even Sonic Rush. Sonic Rush is my favorite 2D Sonic. But thinking about the Sonic Mega Collection Plus cover art, it's like they would never do that today. They would never release a classic Sonic collection that features the modern artwork on the characters, on the box art, or even when you boot up the game. They would never do such a thing today because they need to keep this split going. Iizuka has gone on record saying that we're gonna have the 3D pillar, which is modern Sonic, and we're gonna have the 2D pillar, which is classic Sonic, as if classic must be 2D. Like every 2D game that comes out must be classic, and every 3D game that comes out must be modern. Like it has been decreed. They are tied to their dimensions. Even though the classics were begging to be 3D since Sonic 2 with the special stages, even CD with the special stages, they threw in 3D everywhere because they were desperate to be. Early 90s was all about trying to be as 3D as possible, but they couldn't do it because the technology was mid. So they were like special stage 3D, Sonic 3 intro, the whole area is 3D. Like everyone's favorite special stage, Blue Sphere, even though it's inferior to Half Pipe, is also 3D. We're trying to be 3D so bad, and then now it's like we're trying to be 2D so bad. It's like, it's so weird how things have, like, because of like the generations divide, like everything has been so separated, and now everyone's picking their side. And yes, people see me as the guy on the modern side, but I still enjoy classic games like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Sonic 1. Like, I do enjoy the classic games, okay? Just because I think things should have changed since then doesn't mean I didn't enjoy those games. People seem to have this idea that because I don't want the games to stay exactly the way they were in the 90s, that somehow that means I hate classic Sonic. No, I just want things to evolve. Just because Heroes is my GOAT, just because I love Adventure 1, doesn't mean I think the boost should have never been invented. I think the boost is a great thing for Sonic, okay? I don't think we should use boost forever, but I like when they try new things and they experiment, right? Like Frontiers, they tried something different and it kind of worked for them, right? I mean, it sold well. Was it my favorite game? No. Was there tons of room for improvement? Of course! It's a Sega game after all, it's not gonna be a 10 out of 10. Always cut corners. But that wasn't a result of the open zone formula being bad, that was just a result of Sega being the type of company to cut corners with their releases. But it's cool to see something different that wasn't another Forces. But this idea of making an entire pillar of 2D Sonic, which is just hell-bent on being the same thing without any major difference, is really fucking annoying. And the fact that they have to canonically tie it to the 90s just to keep the extra nostalgia in check. Like, I've been thinking about this, right? Back in June, and I probably mentioned this in a previous video, it said Sonic Superstars won't include Shadow, but he might feature in a new game. That's one of those Izuka mites, right? Izuka said on record, right? Unfortunately, Shadow's not in the game. Sorry all you Shadow fans, love Suzuka. This is a classic series game, so do understand that Shadow is not a part of the classic series, but do be hopeful for Sonic 3. And he's like, yeah, we'll create a game for Shadow in it, look, listen, okay? If the classic series is about milking nostalgia and doing things the way the 90s was, then why is there a new character in Sonic Superstars? Who is Trip? Like, who is Trip? Who? You just made them up. So this whole idea that we can't put anything there because we must place these classic games in the 90s, so it has to make sense of the canon. But you've invented Trip. So what? This game came out after Mania. So what? Sonic 3 and Knuckles came out in 94. So when does Sonic 4 come out? I don't know. 95? Like, is that what we're doing now? Superstars came out what? 96? No, Mania came out 96, right? And I'm guessing Superstars is 97, just in time for Sonic Adventure in 98. So in 97, they all met Trip, the whatever the fuck she's called, the Trip the Lizard, the Lizard Dragon. And then like, we never see her again in the entirety of the modern series, even though she's technically a character that they met before Sonic Adventure, but we just never saw them again. We saw all the Chaotix again, except for Mighty and Ray, which I guess they brought back in Mania. But Mania happened in the 90s, so technically Mighty and Ray never came back. They've always been stuck in the 90s because you see how ridiculous this sounds? Like, oh my god, like, so you can't make a game, even if it was a classic style game and aesthetic, you can't make one that features characters that people have liked for decades, like Shadow, like Rouge, like Blaze, like Silver. Like, you can't do classic Silver with Psychokinesis. Sure, you want to make a classic game to appeal to the people that grew up in the 90s or what, cool, but you can't add these characters because that will piss them off. But you can invent new characters that no one gives a fuck about. You can invent lizards, but you can't put Shadow or Blaze or Rouge or Silver in a game because it would fuck up the canon. It wouldn't make sense. Shadow came back to life, okay? Blaze was from another dimension in Sonic Rush, and then she was from the future in Sonic 06. Then they erased Sonic 06, and then Silver was reintroduced to the franchise again in Sonic Rivals, okay? The fuck you talking about making sense, okay? Who is the dragon? Who is Evil Spyro in the final boss of Superstars? No one knows. Talking about the canon, no one gives a fuck. Okay, so basically what you're saying is you could pick and choose a few modern elements to sprinkle on top of your classic games to make them seem fresh and new, even though modern has done them for years, like the rail grinding in Superstars or the Emerald Powers, which are basically the Whis or the 06 gems, take your pick, and then not actually give us the modern shit that we want because you're afraid of losing the classic audience. Even though the modern audience is quite frankly bigger than the classic audience, let's be real, the highest selling classic games were bundled in with the system, and Sonic 3 on the Genesis, which wasn't bundled with the system, moved like 1 million units. The fact that Mania could barely even outsell Forces, even though it costed like half the price and was like twice as good, it tells you all you need to know about the popularity of classic Sonic versus modern Sonic. I swear, this classic modern divide has got to be the dumbest thing in the whole franchise. I'm sorry. It's the dumbest thing. Like, seriously, it's the dumbest thing, right? And look, if Izuka never said that 2D was only going to be classic, then I'll be like, cool, then give us a modern 2D game where you don't hold everything back and you give us the characters that we like in that modern 2D game, whether it's like an evolution of the Advanced Trilogy or Rush or whatever, and then put in the characters and do new things that we actually enjoy, and then cool, then let the classic fans have their, it's set in 1994 and it doesn't add anything significantly new to the formula and it's not even better than the games from that era, cool, you can do that. But the moment you say that 2D can only be classic and we have to sit there and be like, like, okay, I guess we're never getting playable Silver in these games. I guess we're never getting any of these characters that we like or any new mechanic that we like because it didn't happen in the 90s, right? Then that's when I get annoyed, because now it's not everyone is satisfied. It's like either or, right? It has to be classic. It has to appeal to that rigid thing. Even though they've broken so many rules from what was allowed in the classics, Amy wasn't playable in the classics. She's playable in Superstars. But I mean, technically she was there, but she wasn't playable. If we're following the rigid rules of what happened in Sonic 1, 2, 3, K, and CD, Amy was not playable, but now she is. Well, actually, she was playable in Sonic Drift. Okay, cool. Trip didn't exist in those games. Now she's been invented. That's allowed, apparently. But we can't have Shadow, we can't have Blaze, can't do anything different when it appeals to a modern fan. Is that what it is? I don't know. This is a weird run. I don't know why I made this video, honestly. I just had a bunch of things I wanted to say. Maybe I've been playing too much Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Maybe I've been following Beats' mod ways, modernifying Sonic Superstars. I don't know, like, maybe that's why I'm talking about this right now. Just seeing the article with the game is set in the 90s bullshit just kind of set me off a little bit. This classic Wonder Divide has got to be the dumbest thing in the entire franchise, and I love Generations, but I fucking hate this divide so much because it's added these weird rules and then they create these loopholes to do things that they want to do, but then when it's time to actually do things that people who actually played Sonic in the 2000s and like Sonic in the 2000s and want to see, then all of a sudden it's like, we can't do that. That's not classic. It's like just this weird picking and choosing of rules. Like, you could put Rails in Sonic Superstars, but you can't put Shadow. But Rails didn't exist until 1990. Wait, no, in fact, no. Rails didn't exist until 2001 with SA2, right? That's when Rails were invented. So clearly, why are there Rails in Superstars? I thought it was a classic. Oh, wait, no, that just applies to the shit we don't want to put in. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. Is Prem overreacting and being cynical, or do you think that the classic being 2D and no modern 2D is a good thing for the franchise and we should keep it that way and modern 2D should just cease to exist for the rest of eternity? Anyway, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, more content coming soon to the channel. But yeah, that's all I have to say right now. So, Premy out.